You wanna know what this film reminds me of? This is gonna sound so off topic, but it really reminds me of that one game, Among Us. Hi, my name is Emily, and this is Video Time Podcast. And today we have a special guest.
Hi guys, I'm Isabel.
Me and Isabel will be talking about Bodies, 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 released in 2022. And so basically we're just going to give a run through. We're going to talk about characters, what we thought about them, what we enjoyed about the film, all of that stuff. I'm about to read the plot of Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Okay. When a group of 20-somethings get stuck at a remote mansion during a hurricane, a party game gone very, very wrong ends with a dead body on the ground and fake friends at every turn as they try to find the killer among them. You know what this, you want to know what this film reminds me of? This is going to sound so off topic, but it really reminds me of that one game, Among Us. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's very similar to this plot, which is about a bunch of, a bunch of people trying to find this one murderer and a set of kills, They're just pointing fingers. And so this movie really explains that game very well.
Okay.
This movie also reminds me of the movie Scream. You've seen that movie, right? So, it's kind of like more of a modernized version of Scream, just with its own plot twist,
Yeah.
Although, of course, Scream was better, you know?
10 times.
10 times better, So, what did you think of this movie? I just want to get into that right now because, this film is very straightforward, and it has, to be honest, has a good plot twist, which we'll be getting into in a bit.
Well, what I can say is I did not expect the ending to be that.
The plot twist?
Yeah.
The ending? I really enjoyed the ending. So that was a really
I was like, what? Seriously?
That was a really good key detail about the film, which was the plot twist. I did not expect that at all.
Yeah, me either.
A thing that I liked about this movie was probably the characters. And, the characters were bad, but I think they were supposed to be like that, They were supposed to be troublemakers. They were supposed to be stupid, They were supposed to be modernized, just like that. Always about, I don't know, what's that word? I forgot. But they were supposed to, be annoying characters.
Yeah.
To have bad characters, they have to be bad characters.
It makes everybody look guilty.
To make a bad character is to, not knowingly make a bad character, Let's say you're trying to make a character, and this character you think is well, but really isn't. That's a bad character. However, this movie showed bad characters, but they were supposed to act like that. They were supposed to act dumb. Basically, teenagers you would see in a basic slasher movie. Exactly like that. And so, I really enjoyed that about the film, It was on purpose. It was intentionally, right? That was the word I was trying to look for.
Oh, okay.
I really enjoy that part, how the characters were made. It's supposed to be annoying like that, So let's get more into the film itself, more of the plot, the movie, all that stuff, the characters.
Okay.
So obviously, I read from the plot, it was a bunch of dumb adults in this one big alone mansion, playing this game called Bodies, 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 and they're going against each other. Is there anything that you like about that whole section? Did you like the characters, how they acted around each other? What made this movie stand out more than others?
Well, I liked how they made every character seem guilty because
suspicious.
Suspicious. It could have been that person. It could have been this because of this and this and that reason. Everybody had a reason that they could have been them.
Yeah, it could have been the murderer. The reason why they could have the murderer or whatever. So I really enjoyed that too. I like how the movie shows this person was lying about this something. So I really enjoy that aspect where everyone's guilty and everyone's pointing fingers at each other, and it could be literally anyone.
Yeah.
And so, one of these characters being B. So this character is actually the protagonist. She's actually dating another character. What's her name?
What was her name? Sophie.
Yeah. Okay, so you have these two lovers, Sophie and B, and they end up going to this party that like that.
Well, it seemed that she hadn't spoken to her friends in a while.
So they were like, yeah, let's go to the party.
Because when she showed up, they seemed surprised. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's been a while, you know? And so they start hanging out. They start partying, whatever adults do at, you know, in a huge mansion in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
Rich adults. My God. I really like how this movie brings in like the modern side of stuff, trying to like just showing that everyone's covered of like social. I can't say that word. Social media. Like, oh my gosh, this is happening on this is happening on Twitter. This is trending right now. And so really, that's what brings this film together. Is like basically
very modernized.
Yeah, very modernized. And I kind of like about like most of the time I don't really like movies that are modernized, but this movie felt like it was meant to be modernized. Yeah, it wasn't this whole situation, this whole like the plot wasn't supposed to happen if they weren't modernized, if they weren't stupid.
I think especially because you know how they show TikTok. I feel like TikTok is really big right now, so it was like, oh yeah, like,
yeah, that was understandable. Yeah. What the reason that happened was because of that, you know, and it really explains mostly because of like, oh, this is trending, might as well do it.
Yeah.
And so I really like about that. I really like that whole, like, how do I explain? I really like the characters and the way that they act.
So pretty much, Sophie, in the movie, it starts off that Sophie's going to, I guess, introduce her new girlfriend to her friends, you would say. Yeah.
And so these, her best friend, actually, which her best friend owned a mansion in the middle of the woods. And so she decided to like go introduce her new girlfriend and also get to meet her friends because it's been a while. So Sophie basically tries to introduce her new girlfriend B to her friends, and so they go to this mansion and they decide to like they're introducing each other, and her friends are kind of surprised. Sophie's friends are kind of surprised that she's there because I guess it's in this movie it explains that like it's been a while since Sophie got in to meet her friends, you know, and during this while one of her friends, Alice, she's a really important part of this movie. Almost all the characters are.
I would say all of them are equally important.
Yeah. Alice, she has a new boyfriend, you know, and so Sophie and B are like new to this stuff, you know, since it's been a while since she got in to meet her friends, and so basically this movie you kind of see the relationships that they all have together. You know, some are like in love with each other, as some hate each other to the guts, you know, and at this movie it's a lot of like finger pointing, like, hey, you did this, and this movie really unwraps that feeling, like the feeling that we were talking about, like the suspicious,
like it was you, could have been
me, suspicious everyone was activity. Guilty. Everyone was guilty at their own thing, and they did something bad, you know. So all the friends decide to play this game called Bodies Bodies, and this game is kind of familiar to them already, you know. They usually wait for a hurricane to pass by and they play this game during the hurricane, you know. Just like it's a fun activity they do as friends. But this time, the next time they actually do start to play, a lot of things happen. Like I said, in the plot, a game that went very, very wrong. And so basically this game is called Bodies, 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 as the title, the movie title, of course. And this game is mostly explained, like this game is about, like, how do I explain it? This game is kind of like a murder, a murder mystery game.
You need to figure out who killed who.
And so it's played in a certain way where like if you have a certain number X symbol, I forgot what it was. I think it was an X. Then you're the murderer. You just gotta tap someone on the back, and report the body, and it's just a fun game, you know. And so they're playing this game all while doing drugs, drinking, and so they're kind like I said, they were kind of stupid characters, which made that whole situation and the situation that we're gonna get into right now. And so, you know, they started drinking, they started taking drugs, and they're all playing this game until in this game they find a dead body, and not an actual dead body, but in this game, like I said, the fictional murderer has to tap someone on the back and they're dead. Kind of like I said, the game Among Us. And so they find this dead body and they're like going against each other, like, oh, so they're just like putting clues together just to find the fictional murderer. And so they do this, right? And so this brings into a whole other can of worms. They start fighting, even though this whole game is fake, like just a fake situation, a game that they play daily, you know?
But even though it was fake, I felt like
it was taken very seriously.
Yeah, it was like, I thought it was real. I thought he was the first person to actually die, because you know how he wouldn't respond.
Yeah, because like they're...
Wait, was Craig? What was his name? Greg,
yeah. So they play that, and so they get into a big fight, and they split off, and they continue playing the game until something happens. When they continue playing the game, they actually find a real dead body, and they're like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? And so they start freaking out. We got the main characters. We got B, Sophie, the two girlfriends. Then you got Alice, which I like to say the annoying girl. Then you got Emma, the narcissist. And then you got...
Who was the other one?
Jordan,
yeah.
Basically the crazy one. And so you got these 4 girls, and they're just trying to play the game. And then they find an actual dead body. And this body is the same person who they thought was a murderer, the fictional murderer in the game. And so they started to freak out, you know. They were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? There's an actual dead body. And so during this time, they start pointing fingers at each other. They start going against each other, and they're like, okay, so... who could have killed this act? Who could
I feel like at first they thought it was someone.
Yeah,
someone that was I guess like an intruder that tried killing them.
And so they started putting clues together, and they're like, okay, it must be someone inside the house, you know. And so Greg, during this conversation when they were playing the fictional game, Greg and the murderer, like fictional murderer, it's really confusing, because like you got the fake side of bodies, and then the real side of bodies. But what I'm trying to explain is like the fictional part. So in the fictional part of the game is they're like going against each other. Greg and this other dude, his name was
Greg.
Well, I just said that Greg was the old man.
David.
Greg and David, and they're fighting, and so they split off. Then David actually dies, and so they're like, the girls are like, okay, so if it wasn't Greg, because he's the one that's obviously dead, and then it must be Craig. Then it must be Greg. Because he wasn't there at that time. So they go up to Greg, and they get into this real big fight between the girls and Greg. And so basically, you know, they're just fighting and blah, blah, blah. And they actually end up murdering him, thinking that he was the actual murderer. So the reason they thought Greg was the murderer, the one that killed David, right? Was because, 1, he was a vet. 2, because he wasn't there present time when they found his body.
And David's then also the bag they found in his...
Yeah, they found a bag. And
with like knives and all that stuff. Yeah,
but there's all an explanation, because we finally realized, the girls realized themselves, that it's not Greg, it's actually someone else. Well, someone else.
Well, it was after Alice revealed that he was a veterinarian, not like an army vet.
So they were like, oh my gosh, so it's not... David's dead, Greg is dead, so who could it be, you know? They're all pointing fingers, and this leads into a really huge fight between them, and one even starts to point out a gun, you know? And this one being Jordan, they start fighting, they start talking about personal information about themselves, and this even leads into B questioning her girlfriend if she's cheating or not. And so this whole situation, they're just pointing fingers at each other, and then that's when Jordan pulls out a gun. She's just going through all these like emotions that she doesn't know how to bring them out, so she shoots one of them.
I feel like it hit for her. She got it like aggressive, because they were saying that she was not like at their level, like society wise.
Yeah, and so they were just fighting about like social media, podcasts, all this stupid stuff, and that's what makes the characters pretty obvious, that they have to act like that, because they have to act like bad characters. They have to act like that for that to happen, you know? So Jordan ends up pulling a gun, shooting one of the girls, and so they get into this big fight, and then that girl actually ends up dying from bleeding, and so... Then Jordan has the gun still, and so we're only left with Jordan, B, and Sophia, right?
Yeah.
And so the Sophia and B, the couple, the last one that's actually sustainable, they start fighting for the gun back because they don't want to get shoot as well. So they start fighting Jordan, all that stuff, you know? And so then when that's over, they end up kicking Jordan off of a balcony kind of stairways case. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
And she ends up dying from falling. And so they're just pointing fingers. They end up getting killed off one by one from self-defense, thinking that they're the murderers. And so then it's only left with the couple, right? And so during this time, like I said, B is kind of suspicious of Sophia cheating on B. So they're like, okay, so then if we're the last ones, then who was the original one who killed David, the first actual dead body? And so they're just going against each other, and then they find something, you know? Outside, they find a phone. And so they realize this phone is actually David's phone, the first person to get killed, the first body to get discovered. And so they're like, okay. So they open it. They end up like using the face, and the Face ID, and they find something very shocking. It wasn't someone who killed David. It was David who killed himself accidentally. He was doing a TikTok video with his machete, his dad's machete, and ends up slashing his throat open. This leading to the girls thinking like, oh my gosh, there's someone killed someone, you know. This leading into pointing fingers, this leading into killing one from self-defense, this leading into this whole big messy situation that they did for absolutely nothing. And all they had to do was check a phone.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was the funny part, because like it really brings the social media side of things, like that this is for trends, you know, David did that because he wanted
for
to
views.
Yeah, so for views. And it's kind of silly to think like, oh my gosh, just everything happened just because he accidentally killed himself with the machete while trying to do a TikTok video.
And I feel like he was trying so hard to
impress everyone.
Yeah, because you know he kind of felt jealous of.
He kind of felt jealous of Greg and like other characters in the movie.
Well, when Sophia and what's her name, B arrive. You know how they want to celebrate because they haven't seen her in a while. So
he tries to like
Greg. What's his name? Greg.
Yeah.
He goes inside, and then you know how he gets the champagne and he gets a machete and goes boom.
Yeah, he gets a machete, and he was like, well, I could do that as well. Then early on that day, he tries to do a TikTok video and then leads into that whole situation, the plot of the movie. It's kind of silly, but I enjoy it because, like, I mean, it's something that might have happened. Yeah, because like people are so stuck on their phones doing these trends, anything for views, you know.
Yeah.
And so
pretty much, sums up how society is now.
Is there any like special effects that you liked?
I actually thought that when David he got
his throat slit.
Yeah, I thought it was like very real.
You thought so?
Yeah, but then when the next day when he looks like, I was like, okay, too fake.
Well, not too fake. I thought it was kind of cool to see like the mud rush over him because of a hurricane. I thought it was a cool scene. So, is there any characters you personally enjoyed? Any topics?
I don't know. I felt very iffy about everybody.
I really enjoyed the character B. She was just kind of there, you know. She was just trying to do her own thing, trying to fit in, you know, trying to impress her girlfriend's friends. But ends up like this whole situation happens. And it's funny because like she's there at the right time. Not at the right time. She's there at the wrong time. You know, it could have been any other situation, but she was there. Okay, is there anything that you did not like about this film?
I didn't like when they kicked Sophie out. I thought it was pretty mean.
Oh,
I mean, no.
Well, like
B,
not Sophie. B.
Yeah, B. I felt like that was so cruel of them because they were.
I mean, they didn't even know if she was the killer or not.
I thought that was pretty mean.
I personally, I don't have like a. Like, I don't hate them. Like, my feelings about these movies, like, you know, I don't hate it, neither do I like it so much. It's just right there for me, you know?
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about the deaths, and we're going to go in the order they occurred. So the first death we're going to talk about is David, because he was the first one to die in the movie. And pretty much the girls were playing the game, And I don't know, he wandered off because he got mad that everybody voted him that he was like the
fictional murderer.
Yeah, the fictional murderer. So he stormed off. He was mad, and then the girls were like, "Okay, whatever, let's keep playing." And so B is like, I guess, wandering around the house when we see that David just like slams into the door and like he's saying like, "Help!" What did he say?
He was like, no, he was just like kind of groaning,
like, yeah, yelling. So then B, I guess she just stays like in shock, and then all the girls rush into him and they're like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And he's like, you could just see him that he has his throat slit and he's like bleeding.
And that's when they assume like that someone probably did it unknowingly.
And then
that it was him.
well, like what made the thing more like, I guess, not cringy, but like, how would I word it, like more like you felt more like was because they had lost I don't know the word.
What was that?
What I guess made the scene more intense was that the power had gone out and they didn't have cell phone access, and then what was it, Sophie's car?
Yeah,
they were trying to go in Sophie's car to go look for help, but apparently they left like the mirror open and then the battery died, so they were pretty much stuck. And then the other person that had a ride or a car would be Max, but we didn't see him in the whole movie until the ending.
Yeah. And so the next person to get murdered would be Greg, right? And so he doesn't get murdered mysteriously, like how David did, even though he did not. He actually gets killed from self-defense from the girls, thinking that he was the one that murdered David. So
the next death after Greg was Emma, and we see her that she's pretty much laying down at the edge of the staircase, and everyone assumes that
she either got pushed or like someone either pushed her or she tripped.
Yeah. So then we later find out that Sophie was the one that actually had given her drugs.
To comfort her?
Because I guess
like their best friend died, so I guess drugs help, try to avoid her problems. And so she got so drugged out that she accidentally fell from this, like she tripped over a stair, like she
step or something. We don't see. We don't see what happens, but we just know that she's tripped.
Dead. She's dead at the end of the staircase. The next death being Alice, and we learn that Alice actually dies from getting shot from one of her friends named Jordan. And Jordan, the reason she actually gets shot is because Jordan and Alice, all of them get into a really big fight. They're pointing fingers, like I already explained. And so then Jordan gets so pushed over the edge, like we said, she ends up shooting Alice,
Yeah. And prior to this, Jordan pointed her finger at B, and they kicked her out of the house, and B was stuck outside in the rain, and
she came back
inside because remember that she seen that she had a gun and she tried to warn everybody, but
I guess it was for self-defense that she had the gun, but it just ended up like finger pointing, and then Jordan actually ended up using the gun towards Alice.
Yeah.
And she ends up dying. So the next death
would be Jordan
herself.
After she killed Megan.
after
she killed Alice, she I guess freaked out, like, oh, stay away from me. Yeah. And they were trying to have her put the gun down, and she didn't want to.
And so this ends up into like a really big fight between everyone, and she ends up getting pushed off of staircase.
Yeah.
Leading to her death. And so this only leaves the couple, right? Mm-hmm. And so they don't actually end up killing each other. Instead, they find out that one of their friends, like the whole situation that happened was because of David. The TikTok, we already explained this. We're just giving more of a detailed run.
But I feel like Jordan had created like this tension between
Alice and B, because B.
Sophie and B.
Sophie and B.
Pretty much, Jordan was an instigator in
on like side relationship with Sophie, okay. And so this leading up to like B accusing that she was cheating on her, and this leads into another fight. But this doesn't lead into like any other deaths.
After everybody died, B was scared of Sophie.
Yeah, they were just like on each other. They're like off edge because like then who killed David? Mm-hmm. So then they're just like, what do we do now? And so they end up finding a phone.
Well, I remember that B wanted clarity.
Yeah.
So she asked Sophie if she can see her phone. And then Sophie was like, okay, you can have it. And then when she reached out, she threw the phone into the...
Yeah.
We just see it goes to the side.
And they just start fighting for that, and they accidentally grab another phone, this phone being David's phone, and they realize that the whole situation happened.
And that's how they reveals that
that it was
he killed himself
by accident for TikTok. Mm-hmm. So, if you could rate this movie 10 through 1, 10 being like the best movie you've seen, 1 being like the worst movie you've seen, what would you rate it?
I would say maybe like a 7.
I would say a 7 as well. I like this film, but it's totally not one of my favorites.
Yeah, same.
It's unique.
I just felt like, for me, it was the ending. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was really smart. Yeah. I did not expect that. That was like probably one of my favorite
At first,
parts
I thought
about
it was,
this movie.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
At first, I thought it was like somebody like that was surrounding them, trying to kill them.
I thought it was a Max, a character that did not really have to take part in this movie. I guess Max was just there, just like off to the side. He was supposed to be at the party earlier, but did not come until like the end when there's only the 2 remaining.
Yeah, and it was just like
the couple.
Awkward, like they're all covered in blood, and they're just like, they look like shit.
Yeah, and so I really thought it was Max at first. I thought he was just like, I don't know. We would learn that Max was doing this for a reason, but it was not.
Yeah.
I really liked the ending, the plot twist.
Yeah, it was really good.
So, who do you think the killer was?
I think it was Jordan because right when Sophie introduces B, you see how she gets kind of like aggressive with B and she tells her like, oh, be careful with her. Like, yeah. So then like you always hear like just like giving like little looks. I'm like, this girl has to be it. Yeah. Because she was like aggressive throughout the whole movie.
But we end up learning it's not. Yeah. And so I really liked the movie for that. If you have time, you should totally watch Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Right now it's in theaters. And if you really want that enjoyment from the theaters and the vibe it gives off, you should totally watch it. That concludes of today's episode here on Video Time Podcast. I want to give a special thanks to Isabel for being here and talking about Bodies, Bodies, Bodies with me. And she's actually starting her own podcast.
Emily, you've actually inspired me to start my very own podcast. It's going to be called Last Breath Podcast. It's going to be based on true crime, but I'm mostly going to be talking about murder since I'm a murder junkie. And I've already set up an Instagram account. If you guys want to go ahead and follow me, it's Last Breath Pod. And yeah.
And I'll see you guys in the next podcast. Bye.